Hello and welcome to the Caz and Daz Show without Daz this week. So we've got Michael Hanson-Morris with us today and Ads from Brand 161. We're going to be talking some GB women's basketball, some WNBA free agency, WBBL, WNBL, any women's basketball. So really pleased to have with me Mikey and Adam.
Good evening.
Hey, Caz.
There we go. How are you guys doing?
Well, I'm not as good looking as Darren, so sorry to intrude on your show. My beard's slightly better than his, though.
It's looking good. It's looking good. Very, very shaped. How are you doing, Mikey?
Yeah, it's been a long day of basketball, but that's never a bad thing normally, is it?
No, definitely not. So should we kick off straight away with some GB talk? So GB women today playing in the Eurobasket qualifiers, playing Belarus and lost by 10, 67-57, which puts their qualification hopes in quite a dire place at the moment. We'll talk about that in a minute, but first of all, how do you guys think the game went? What did you like to see? What do you think maybe didn't work so well? Ads, do you want to start off?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much we've got to accept the fact that we're seemingly in some sort of transition right now from the team that we'd kind of got used to that did so well at the last Eurobasket. It was quite a different looking squad again today, and I don't know. I felt it kind of looked like it. I think we looked a bit uncertain from the offset. I think this point guard problem is one that's really hit us bad. The other thing is as well, I don't know what you guys thought, but I just felt like if Belarus hadn't shot so badly, there could have been an even bigger spread. Did you guys think that too? I didn't think Belarus were outstanding as such.
Well, they shot it better than they did yesterday.
Yeah.
Because yesterday they were 1 of 20 from 3 against Poland. Today was 7 of 19. So there is that. But yeah, I don't think either team shot it particularly great. GB were 22% in the end. So
yeah, 3 of 13 for GB and 7 of 19 for Belarus. So what? Yeah. So GB's top scorer, we had Temi Fagbenle with 23 points, 9 of 18 shooting, 13 rebounds, a massive block, who just looked like she was doing everything on the floor. The rest of the team struggled a little bit. We've got Carly Samuelson on 12 points, 2 of 12 from the field. And behind her, Christina Nigwe and Isla Simpson with 7 points each. But no one aside from Sheridan Green scored more than 2 field goals, which to me, that's something that really hurt GB. They only made 19 baskets from the field the whole game. Is that something you think that really needs to be addressed going forward, Mikey?
I mean, yeah, there's no two ways about it. What's that? Temi was 9 of 18. So yeah, the rest of the team were 10 of 43. That's just not going to do it at an international level. You can't rely on one player. It wasn't the only issue. I didn't realise, because obviously I did the post game with Ish straight afterwards. Took in a little bit of time since, while other games have been a half-time stuff, to flip through stats. GB didn't take a field goal in the final 2 minutes of the game. We ended the game on 4 straight turnovers, and then obviously Carly scored 0.1 seconds after the buzzer. So when you're trying to chase a game, when potentially you're in a scenario as GB where every point matters, in terms of trying to get qualified because of the way the system works, we didn't take a field goal in the final 2 minutes of the game, and that's criminal. And that was 4 straight turnovers. And I said with Ish post game that GB had 20 turnovers for 22 Belarus points. So actually, we did a pretty good job defensively, but 20 turnovers for 22 points, combine that with 22% or 23% from 3, it's just not going to get it done. And I think Ish hit the nail on the head. Inigwe was fantastic defensively today. She did a great job. But you can't have a WNBA player going 2 of 12 from the floor with 6 turnovers. It's just not going to get it done to try and advance in such a competitive environment.
And how much of the fact that the team doesn't get to practice together much, they've only had probably a week, if that, to get together, do you think that factors into it? And this is obviously a problem that the GB team have had in the past. They're going to continue to have it. Belarus had a game yesterday, so they lost to Poland, but maybe they were able to figure some things out that didn't go so well yesterday, whereas GB have just coming in, having to play.
Not an excuse at all. Not for the November, February windows. For the summer, maybe, but everyone's in the same boat. Belarus haven't played as a team in 16 months. November was the last time we saw them. November, because obviously they didn't play.
Oh, they missed the window, didn't they? Yeah.
Sorry, no. I think they played. Poland last Feb.
Yeah.
Oh, did they? No, they didn't.
No, they were.
Anyway, no, because Belarus were 1-0 coming in. So yeah, Belarus haven't played in 16 months. So obviously with the pandemic, they won't have trained last summer. They didn't get together in the November window. So Belarus have walked in and played a double header on. Most teams arrived in Riga Monday. So even if Belarus got in on Sunday, Belarus have had probably 2 practices and then 2 games. That's not any excuse for GB because all the teams are in the same boat, and Belarus are probably in the worst situation of anyone, having not played in 16 months. So yeah, that's not an excuse. And ultimately, 6 points in the final quarters, not down to preparation. It's down to adjustments. It's down to how you can execute in a tight situation, and just didn't do it today.
I mean, I'd agree with that. I mean, I went on a bit of a nostalgia trip this afternoon and watched a couple of, I skimmed through a couple of the GB games from the Olympics just to sort of remember that team from back then, and just kind of enjoy watching the spectacle and the togetherness back then and how it's been before. It just isn't there at the moment, but it's completely different times, obviously. But the thing that the point I'm kind of getting to in an indirect kind of way is what you were saying before, is that we're relying on Temi. It's seemingly completely relying on Temi at the moment, and Carly to an extent. Chantal Handy just couldn't get it going today, could she? I mean, did she even? I don't think she even scored a basket, did she?
Oh, she was 6, 5 from 3.
Yeah, which for her is pretty unusual, because you're pretty much guaranteed that Chantal's going to hit a couple of threes for you, but she just couldn't hit anything today. And I don't know. It's like it's kind of obvious to state that we need someone else to score some baskets, but it's right there in the stat sheet. It's right there in front of us. But the question is, where do we go from here? It was a big blow not making it to the Olympics, but I know that in the last few minutes, Mike, you were just saying the results haven't gone our way either.
No, to summarise it, obviously there's a lot to go on Saturday, but Slovakia played the Netherlands, and the only possible way GB can advance is if Slovakia beat the Netherlands by 1, scoring less than 68 points. And even if that goes GB's way, we need probably 3 other results to go our way as well. So yeah, effectively it's not mathematically done, but you might as well just say it. GB are not going to be at Eurobasket in the summer. So
it's such a huge. I mean, how big of a blow is that, seriously? Because the momentum after the last Eurobasket was great. The team were playing great. The togetherness was great. And then within, a few months of one another, we don't make the Olympics, and it's looking like we're not going to Eurobasket now. It's really sad times for a GB women's team that have been on the up for such a long time, probably since the Olympics. And now it seems like it's just gone on a downward spiral. What have we got to wait for now? Who's the next generation? I mean, there was plenty of new faces in the last couple of games, but
I mean, Chester Donnelly for me hits the head. We haven't got a point guard outside of Georgia that is international experience and international ready. And look, I thought Ailey did a pretty good job today, but everyone knows she is not a point guard. Renee is not a point guard. She doesn't play the 1 for Seven Oaks. Can she handle? Yeah, but you saw Alex Bentley first half Renee struggled to get the ball into the half to generate the offense. The pass was coming from her own half to Carly or whoever was catching it, generally on the wing. And there isn't many point guards coming through either. Like, you look at the GB junior team, I said this with Ish afterwards, name the last good point guard we had at a GB junior national level.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is it. I mean, I know what you're saying, because I thought that you look at the way that they were trying to run the point guard position this morning. Ailey was getting boxed out every time and just running out of space. A lot of people I spoke to today have said, "Oh, we're missing Joe." And yeah, we are. But I think that, we're missing something else other than Joe.
Yeah, you're right. And look, Joe's points, and we always had this coming back from the summer, the JLC column, and that's an issue for sure. But yeah, until you get a serviceable point guard that can get the ball from A to B, and look, that's always going to be the crux, because that's how your offense runs. Your offense runs through a point guard, and I was just trying to rack my brain the last few hours of who we've got, and really domestically outside of Georgia. And let's be honest, even when Georgia comes back, hopefully after COVID, she's not got multiple Euros left in her. She's got one or two, I'd imagine, because she's part of that veteran group that have been around for years. Is you're looking at maybe a Shanice Norton, Kennedy Leonard. They're probably your type of guards, because really Holly's not going to play the one at an international level, and she's someone that's obviously on the fringe of the team. She was one of the two reserves on this trip. Leah McDermott, maybe. I think she's out in Germany at the moment. But outside of that, I can't think of anyone that's even in the collegiate system that's a guard. So we've got some younger players coming through. Savannah will break through, no doubt, when she finishes in the States. I'd expect Evelyn will get some burn as she continues to develop now she's back. But you always have this transition for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There's Jaden Bam, who's out in the States playing high-level D2 right now. I mean, the thing that's she's
4 years away.
She's 4 years away. That's you took the words right out of my mouth. She's 4 years away, and I've said for a long time, and Caz will back this, that Jade has got a huge future, but she's going to be part of that team. And she's going to start breaking through in the next 2-3 years. It's going to be 4 years before she maybe has that chance to come in at the starting point. I've said it before on shows. Sorry, I'm just reading. This is cool. You get the little comments that come up from the bottom. We're at a really funny in between bit at the moment, where we've got this huge gap between now and when that generation's coming through. I mean, we mentioned, like Daz is just saying, when does Winterburn come into the scene? I mean, we know how good she is. When is she going to get that call up and that chance? Because surely now is going to be the time to start trying things out.
So what do you think we're looking at for the next few years? Do you think we're in a transition phase, like you say, it's a rebuild, and we maybe aren't going to be seeing the success we've seen in the last few years? Or do you think there might be someone that comes out and pushes the team through?
Well, I mean, let's look down the roster, who we've got. I mean, how old's Chantel now? Because she's what, early 30s?
33.
33, so she's early 30s, so she's possibly got another championship in her. Like you've mentioned, Georgia, she's in that sort of age bracket too. Do we know if Rachel Vanderwall's going to come back? Because I know she's had knee surgery, so is she going to retire from GB?
I mean, our front court is the thing that it's not set, because you can always add more. But if you look, you've really got Temi, Sheridine, and Christine, and Temi's the oldest of the trio at 28. So we've got a strong front court to build around. So yes, there will be some new faces. Carly's going to have probably another, if she wants it and she's able to keep going, probably another 8 to 10 years. So we've got a core 3-4 there that are going to help see this transition through. It's not as bad as maybe I was perhaps thinking a couple of years ago with how it would look. But yeah, you certainly think scoring is going to be a issue from the guard and the wing spot, and that's probably where Holly right now stands out. And obviously, Chema said pre-game, I believe it was to Mark Woods, that the reason Holly's not there is on the defensive end, which I mean I understand, but at some point you've got to put the ball in the basket, and 57 is not going to win you many games. So what can Holly contribute at age, what is she, 19, 20 at a senior international level? I don't know, but she's the next one that really pops into your head as someone that can go out and get a bucket. But I don't know how ready she is.
It's that difficult thing, though, isn't it? Is to when our player's ready. I mean, sometimes you just got to throw them in there and see what happens. I mean, you never know. Someone might just come up big. You know, it's such a difficult one, and it's something that I don't envy coaches having to do, is to make that decision as to when to give someone that try. You know, I mean, Chema's done it before. I forget who it was against when we were without Joe, and Ailey had to start, and she came up big, and I think she went for like 20 odd points in that game. So sometimes people rise to the occasion, but in terms of the youth players, the younger players coming through, there's some great names on there, but when does he give them that chance to break through?
Well, I think the question is when Chema can get time. Now, obviously, we're going to, for the sake of the argument, we're not making Eurobasket, just to simplify the whole equation. If Chema can get a camp in the summer, that changes everything for me, because then he has time to get people up to speed with the system, because it can't be easy as a player coming in, and let's say you're brand new to the squad. Say it's Holly Winterburn. She's got to learn everything that the girls, the team have been doing for the last 3 years in 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if they get 2 weeks in camp to get on the same page, to learn the sets, that's going to help speed that transition through. And obviously, before, we've never had the funding to do stuff. And supposedly funding there that has allowed, Chema said, again, I think it's the same interview, said, really look forwards now, and he can plan more than one camp ahead. Well, if he can get a boot camp in the summer that is 10, 12, 14 days, he can have a look at some of the fringe players in person, because obviously everything's on video for him right now with COVID and everything that's going on. Get to know some of the players and just see where they're at. I'm trying to think who's coming back from the States this year. Savannah, Kyla Nelson is a possible in the guard spot, I would think. But yeah, it's, for me, the big thing is the lack of guards is the thing that kind of jumps off the page of through, but we'll see. And there's going to be some prizes that some people that maybe we're not even thinking about that break through and are ready, or maybe there's someone, a British passport that we didn't know about somewhere.
Sure. It's funny enough, I had this conversation today with Phil over at Magic Caz. He was like, surely there's got to be people with passports out there that we can find. But yeah, the point that's just come up on the screen there from, is it Chester Donnelly?
Chester, yeah.
Thanks, Chester. You know what? I totally agree with that statement. It is a real shame that as the profile goes up, and the profile, we've all been shouting about the women's GB team or an England team since the Commonwealth Games. Look what we've got as a nation here. We've got this great team of athletes that are doing great things. So the profile slowly has been creeping up, but it almost feels like we've kind of got nothing to show for it at the end now, which is really sad, because once people are getting onto the sport and to the women's game especially, it's almost like, when we made so much noise about the BBC not television showing the shows, showing the games, and then they did and we lost. It's almost that thing of, there's only people are going to go, okay, well, everyone's talking about this team, but every time something big seems to happen, nothing seems to happen. So, I totally agree with what Chester's saying there. So it's kind of crucial, really. If we want to keep the profile of women's GB going, we've got to do it. And I'm wondering at the moment, is there a slight change in the guard because the men's team are looking pretty good? Are they is it their time to kind of shine for a while?
Because it's always been one or the other, hasn't it? We've never really had both at the same time.
It's never worked in tandem, which is a real shame, because obviously we've got so much love for what the GB women's team have done over the past few years.
So just before we wrap things up, what's the next qualification window we've got then, or when's the next time the team's going to get to play?
I'd imagine Eurobasket 2023 qualifiers, which will presumably start in November.
That's the thing with Eurobasket, isn't it? It's like, it's like, oh, is it Eurobasket again? Which one is it?
Well, because obviously now you're in Euros, Worlds is out the equation. I assume probably means the next Olympic cycle we're on the back foot for. So I'd imagine it is Euro 2023, which would start in November the way the windows work. So November, but hopefully we can get the corners in the summer. We'll see.
3 on 3 at the Commonwealth, anyone?
Well, that's what we need to go for.
Yeah, we'll save that discussion for another day. That's a long...
And on that note, I need to flick over to another Zoom call.
So, thanks very much for joining us, Ads. Where can people follow you on Twitter? Where can people find you?
Oh, you'll hear me making a noise on Twitter as Bram161MCR, and as always, one of the loudmouths from the Below the Rim podcast. But it's great to be on with you guys. It's a shame I'll come on when it's GB related. So, with the Magic games, Mystics games being back soon, Caz, we need to get in some Mystics pluggage going on.
Definitely. We'll get you back on to talk some Georgia Jones and Sophia Song.
Definitely.
Cool.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Ads.
See you later, guys.
Cheers, Ads.
Bye.
Right. So, thank you, Chester, for your questions, and Darren. Very good points, everyone.
Who's this Darren DePaul guy?
Who is he? I don't know. He's got some interesting points, though.
In the chat, but not on the show. Shocking.
We will take a quick break, if I can get this to work, and
word from our sponsors, Notch, the mark of achievement, and we are very glad to have them on board with Focus Hoops this year. They make fantastic bracelets that look super stylish and really help you celebrate your sporting achievement. They've just launched a basketball collection, and we're really excited to be on board with them. Let's imagine that you're a player. Let's say that you're Courtney Vandersloot. You got 18 assists in a single ball game, and you want a notch and a bracelet to commemorate that fact. Well, you can do just that. Customize it to your team colors, put the year that you achieved it, and get it the exact size that you need. There are a number of the colors available. Or maybe you're a coach. Maybe you're the coach of a basketball team. Let's just say that you're the London Tyrannosaurus Rex. Your team wears red. You had the league's most valuable player, the MVP, and you want to celebrate that. You want to award them with a great looking notch bracelet. Well, you can do just that. And you can get it saying MVP on the notch itself. That's the charm. You can get the colour you want. Gold is one that I'd go for if we're commemorating the best player in the league. We could even get the team logo, if it's the Tyrannosaurus Rex, let's say, on there. And present it in a beautiful presentation case. Huge thanks for Notch for coming on board Focus Hoops.
And we're back. So it's Caz and Mikey in the Dazzless Caz and Daz Show this week. So we will just have a bit of a talk about some of the other Eurobasket games that have gone on today. Why does it still say ads? We don't want it saying that. I'll figure that out later. We'll pretend ads is still here. So, Mikey, which of the other games that we've had today? We've had 13 games. Which are the ones that have jumped out to you that have been really good to watch? I know we've been watching some just beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, I've been flying around games, but I think there's only one place to start really, and that's a game that's hurt GB a lot on paper. It was Montenegro-Sweden. Me and Ish were talking about it at the end of our recap. But I think we certainly have seen the performance of probably the entire qualification round of Eurobasket. So Jelena Jublevnik, I'm going to say that completely wrong, for Montenegro. 34 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists. Efficiency of 42 in a 2-point win. And she played all 40 minutes in the process.
I mean, I need to update my stat line of the week because that's a stat line of the week.
Yeah.
That's very good.
I think that's against a good Swedish team too. That have done well. Obviously, they're missing a couple of big names. Clara Lundqvist is out with COVID. Amanda Zawi B is out injured. So there's some pieces missing for Sweden, but That was one of the results GB needed to go their way, but credit to Montenegro, they played great. I actually watched the whole game. Really good game. But yeah, 34, 14 and 5 is special.
What do you make of the end of that game? I know I caught like the last few minutes where Sweden were down 3 with down 4 with a free throw, with 2 free throws, and they shot them both instead of maybe, like we were saying, you intentionally miss the second, get the rebound, shoot a 3. What do you make of that?
Well, you could hear it on the commentary. The coach suddenly realised, I don't know if one of the assistants had said this is the best way to go about it, but you could hear him shouting, miss, just while she's got the ball in her hands. And I'm trying to think who was on the line for Sweden. I think it's one of the Elderbrink sisters. Let's have a look. Yeah, it was Frida. And she's got the ball ready to go, and you can hear miss in the background. I just don't think she had time to process it. But the Sweden coach missed the trick if he's going to do that he didn't have a second big rebounding the ball. He went with he had Natalie Fontaine in the game as at the 4 to rebound, but if you're going to miss, you probably go with, you bring Regan McGarity or someone like that off the bench who's a big body to go rebound the ball. So he kind of missed the trick in the first place and just realised a little bit too late.
Yeah.
And then I think Sweden went to foul and the ref then just didn't call it. But realistically from there, you probably need a miracle. You need really to, under 3 seconds, you're going to have to miss the first, make the second, and then put up some sort of Hail Mary. I don't know if he had a timeout left. If he had timeout left, obviously then you've got a catch and shoot 3 for OT. But yeah, the chances of that were slim, but it sounded like, just a miscommunication because it happened a little bit late on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Chester needs cheering up. He's not happy about the GB game. So just to jump back to that quickly, what positives can you give Chester about the GB game, Mikey? What can he look forward to?
I mean, about the GB game was obviously is a massive improvement from last time we played Belarus. We got demolished at home. There's no two ways about it. Lost by 31. And look, if GB lose that game by 20, this conversation is completely different because GB will have a basket difference of +10 instead of -1, and there's still a path to qualification on Saturday. Whereas right now, really, not a lot went our way today that could have really helped. Germany lost handily, which was helpful, but the way the other things have gone, that if you want positives about GB trying to qualify, I'm afraid there isn't one. Because it's just not going to happen unless there's like a 1 in a million miracle happens on Saturday and 4 results go their way, including a game that we need a specific score and a specific points scored by Slovakia. So yeah, it's a tough sledding, I'm afraid, from the positives from qualification point of view. But yeah, I think there's definitely some good things to say. Christine's defense, the way Ailey stepped up in a tough role. Temi was Temi, and we didn't get bullied by a team and a game, and we didn't really talk about it. But how physical that game was!
So many fouls as well, rough fouls,
or stuff that would normally, or stuff that would normally be a foul and wasn't, and refs let go at both ends. And the fact that we didn't really back down from that. So there's positives in the game, but qualification, I'm struggling, I'm afraid.
Okay, so just back to Eurobasket. Did you see any of the Belgian game? Because I was just watching Emma Miesemann, 18 points, 10 rebounds. Belgium just took Finland apart, 82-47.
That was one I missed because it wasn't, should we say, GB critical. Yeah.
It was. What surprised me about this game, Julie Ollerman wasn't playing, and I hadn't seen anything saying she was out with injury or if there was an issue.
I had seen something, and I don't know what it was. Okay. Maybe not, but I'd imagine it's injury or. Was she out in France? She's in
France.
Did she hobble off in the Europeans a couple of weeks ago? Not Eurobasket,
EuroLeague.
Did she finish the game for Lyon? I can't remember. It feels like so long ago, and we're only talking 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I can't remember if Julie finished. I'll need to look that up. So I wonder if she got a knock in that or in a France game after that. So,
I mean, they managed pretty well without her.
yeah, I mean, it's
a notable omission.
On paper, it's a relatively nice window for Belgium. I think they've got Portugal on Saturday, so you're playing the 2 weaker teams in your group.
Yeah,
you're already qualified. I think they're already qualified coming in. So yeah, you've got because they've got the head-to-head on Ukraine. So yeah, they're already qualified coming in. So there is a little bit less pressure to look. And the other thing in that game, obviously I didn't watch it, but obviously the stat line that jumped out is what could well be the WNBA number 1 overall draft pick in the summer, depending on how things go. In Kua, who had 20 points, I believe. I saw something on someone post about it on Twitter. I was hoping you watched that game so you could tell me what was going on.
Oh, I didn't actually. I might go back and watch that one though. That would be a good one to see.
I'm just pulling up the box score. Yeah, she had 20.6 rebounds, and she's 19 still, I believe.
Right, and she would be eligible because she's not through the college system.
Yeah, and there's already been talk in the mock drafts. If you have a look at a mock draft, that she's probably a top 5 pick and could go as high as 1, depending on how things go. So she's certainly one of the more talented Europeans we've seen in a long time coming through. So she'll be one to keep an eye on for. Definitely.
So what are your games for tomorrow and for Saturday? Have we got games tomorrow?
No, just all on Saturday.
All on Saturday. So what are your ones to pick out there?
Let me just. So Slovakia Netherlands is going to be electric. So that group H and Group I, there was a lot to play for coming in. They're 3-team groups, and everyone had kind of beaten each other early on. So Netherlands qualify with a win. They would top the group. Slovakia are currently. What are Slovakia currently? I've already moved that over. Slovakia currently 1 and 2. So a win would put them to 2 and 2, and tie the whole group up. So Slovakia, Netherlands, and Hungary would all be 2. And for Slovakia to win the group, they would need to win by 10.
Okay.
So Slovakia have to win by 10 to win the group, and Netherlands wins the group. Slovakia could qualify with a win, but it's going to get dicey with the points differential. So because of the 5 runners up, so it looks like 3 teams are probably going to end up netting down to being 3 and 1, which means there's 2 spots available for points difference. Teams that are 2 and 2. Turkey are plus 25 and have finished. Hungary are plus 7 and have finished, but if they win the group, they come out. So really, it's going to then be a slot race between Ukraine, Slovakia, and Greece, and one of Latvia and Germany who play each other. So there's a lot going on. Yeah, so Netherlands, Slovakia, Latvia, Germany.
Okay.
Another big game. Both teams need to chase a big win to qualify. So it's not one of those games you can go out and feel your way around and go, we're just trying to win the game. I think both teams will know going in they need to win by double digits. Mm-hmm. So how that affects play, I'm not sure. What else?
As a coach, from your point of view, when you have to go into a game and you know you have to win by a certain amount of points, how do you kind of approach that? Do you just think we need to get as many 3s as we can, or do you try and just it doesn't matter how you score, you just have to score?
The first half isn't too much. There's not you play and you take stock, and then it depends on what you need and what the situation is to how early you go into a more aggressive system. So if you're up 6 at half time and you only need 10, you don't have to worry about it. If you're up 1 and you've got to win by 16, you can't wait till 4 or 5 minutes to go to hit the gamble button and go for broke and be with a more aggressive press or play run and gun type system or whatever's in your back pocket to change things up. So yeah, it just depends on that style of play and what gap you need. I mean, Latvia, I think Germany are currently minus 15 on points difference. If they feel like they need to get to, say, 6 or 7 to qualify, they've got to find 20 points. So if you try and worry about that from minute 1, you're probably going to find yourselves on the wrong end and down 10. And then at that point, you've got no chance. Whereas if you're in the game at half-time, you're up 6, up 8. Okay, you 1 run away from being in a gap, in a spot where you're achievable. So it just depends on exactly how many points you need. But really, ironically, there's a chance it comes down to the last game of the whole window. So Greece play Bulgaria in the last game of the window. I believe that's a 7 o'clock tip UK time, Saturday. Yeah. And there's a chance that Greece will know going in, can they still qualify? And the likely answer is yes. And the question is how many points they need to win by to leapfrog someone in overall points difference. So currently they are, for example, they're 8 points behind Ukraine currently. They are 13 points behind Hungary. Both teams do not play another game. But they are, they are 4 points behind Slovakia, who have to play. So Slovakia win by 8 and finish second in their group, because that would put them at +6, so it'd be a point behind Hungary. Then suddenly Greece need to know that they've got to win by 14. Well, that changes things, knowing in the game you've got to win by 14, whereas if you're playing, let's say you're playing the first game of the day, you've just got to you don't know what you need.
You just got to get as many points as you can.
Yeah. So there's a lot to play, and this is where it's tough, because you see in like football and it's the final day of the season, you tip all at the same time, or in football you kick off at the same time. You see a lot of that. Whereas obviously because of the amount of games, everything's centralized in terms of bubbles, that they can't do that this year. So some teams have got, maybe Greece have probably gotten a big advantage knowing what they need to do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they know what they're coming into that game, and they know.
Yeah, if they need to win by 13 and they're up 14 with 30 seconds to go, it's a completely different scenario than we need 17 and we risk trying to get to 17, or we need as many as we can, and suddenly, like GB, there was a chance before that Carly Samuelson, GB played the last 40 seconds differently, down 10, if they knew that a win by 8 would have qualified them. Yeah. They play it differently. It's just natural at that point. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But there's a lot of games that can affect things. I don't think, looking at the schedule, there's a number 1 seed up for grabs in terms of 2 teams playing each other.
Okay.
So there's not like a
big head-to-head.
A bit, I suppose. Technically, Poland, Belarus, because Poland could still top the group technically. But they'd need to win by, I believe it's 29 to top the group, which I don't think is going to happen. I suppose, having said all that, the Slovakia-Netherlands game is exactly that, because those 2 teams could top the group, or none of them could.
Yeah. So basically, let's just watch all the games tomorrow.
Yeah, but there's not it's not like a Russia versus Bosnia, Czech Republic versus Italy, where both teams are coming in on 1 loss or 0 losses and they're playing directly for. There's nothing that big. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds, at least.
Yes, definitely. And all the games are on YouTube, so you can watch them live on the FIBA YouTube channel, again, which just puts out every time there's some sort of FIBA competition. It's got all the games on there. It's fantastic. So Chester says, how can Britain emulate a small country like Belgium? What do they do that we don't? What do you think there, Mikey?
What do they do that we don't? I don't know. I think if there was a tried and tested method, and this is the same for any country, outside of having a ton of people, take your Russias, take your US, and basketball perhaps being the number 1 sport for a lot of female athletes, with a lot of income, it's a slightly different scenario. Different thing works, but ultimately it's development at a young age. That's as plain and simple answer is how many kids have you got playing, receiving good coaching? How early are they receiving it? Because if you wait until 16, you wait until 14, it's a struggle when someone else has been receiving the same coaching from age 4 or 5. Now, I don't know what happens in Belgium. I don't know how early they start. How many of this squad of 12 right now started playing when they were 10? Don't know. But that's the simple answer and simple recipe. It's better coaching at an earlier age and more court time.
And not having to fight for courts with badminton. That'd be helpful.
Or netball.
True. Okay, so anything else on Eurobasket, or should we move on to some WBBL?
Let's move on. Why not?
Okay. So we had 3 WBBL games this weekend. Essex and Newcastle. Essex won 90-82. Caledonia and Durham. Caledonia winning there 78-60, and Leicester and Oaklands. Leicester 71, Oaklands 48. Which game of these stood out to you, Mikey? I enjoyed the Essex Newcastle one. Yeah,
obviously I was out and about last Saturday, so I didn't see a lot of these games live. But yeah, there's only one place to start. Last Thursday it was the Cassie Breen show. Well, last Saturday it was the Alison Gurrell show. There's no two ways about it. It was like, how do you top 29 points in a half? We won't see that in a while. Oh, wait. 40 hours later. Oh, Alison Gurrell. Oh, I will. I'll drop 30 and a half. Okay.
So Alison Gurrell finishing with 40 points in the game, as Mike said, 30 and a half, shooting a 15 of 29, 12 rebounds, 5 assists and 3 steals. Unfortunately, not quite enough for Newcastle though, as they lost by 8. And we've spoken before how Newcastle, they've had injury problems. They've got quite a short bench. Just this last week, I think they've lost a couple of players to the German league in Mante Kavadovice and Lisa Coop. So playing with a short roster, but Essex as well, they didn't have a huge bench. I think they were playing a similar eight player roster. Andrea Colas for Essex had 28 and 4 rebounds, 2 assists. And DeAngelique Waith had 16 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists and 2 big blocks. Have you liked what you've seen from this Essex team so far?
Yeah, I mean, I said it. Obviously, I had the first game 3-4 weeks ago at Wildcats, and it was a situation of, look, they've had 2-3 weeks of prep, not played a game in 10 months. It was always going to be rough, and obviously had the big victory over Nottingham, and they've been steadily growing. And really, this was a get-out-of-jail-free card for Essex because they really shouldn't have won this game. They were in a bit of a hole, and you can't rely normally on scoring 35 points in the fourth quarter. That's not going to happen too often.
And Newcastle leading all the way until that fourth quarter, which they lost 35-20.
Now, obviously, Essex did the work of getting that deficit that was double digits, and in and around, I think it was 7 or 8 at the end of the third. And they got that done early because they had the big threes early on in the fourth quarter. So they got the lead back to make it a competitive game, and I think it was a 1 possession game with 3 minutes to go, give or take.
Yeah, I think
and so from there, Essex just closed it out. Newcastle obviously a little bit tired. I assume they probably travelled down on Saturday, and if they did, got to get there for 11:30 to Essex to Newcastle is 4.5 hour drive probably, at least. So 11:30, you're probably leaving at 6:30 in the morning. Obviously, two players played 40 minutes in Gurrell and Maddie McVicker. Abby Lowe played another 34, and the only reason she didn't play more was because she fouled out. So yeah, that's the disadvantage Newcastle had, and they just ran out of gas a little bit. And you could tell Gurrell was tired towards the end, but that's going to happen when you take the volume of shots she does, and she has to work on the defensive end as well. But yeah, it's interesting, and I like the Essex edition of Megan Haynes. I think they needed another guard. Obviously they've got Lamberg. She wasn't on the roster, so I don't know if she's hurt or decided to leave. I don't know what that situation is. but it's nice to have another young British talent back in the league. Megan, I think, she'd only been in the States 18 months, so hopefully nothing drastically bad happened out there, and it wasn't a really bad experience for her. But having coached against her, she's a great person. She doesn't shoot the three great for a guard, which might mean she struggled to score in the league, but we'll see how she settles in. She had a bit of a rough first game, but you'd expect that stepping up. Not played for a couple of months, new team, probably limited prep. But yeah, hopefully she can grow into a role and be another one of those young GB guards that we've talked about that we don't really have, as someone that could develop into perhaps something in the future for the national team. Yeah,
which just ties in very nicely with Chester's comment that we need some skillful guards. And she could be a player that fills that slot.
Yeah, for sure.
So Caledonia and Durham. Caledonia taking their first win there. It was Durham's first game. We finally got a roster for Durham just before. So we had Pollyanna Story with 19 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists and 4 steals for Caledonia. And then for Durham, Cara Elderkin, 16 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists and 6 steals, which I always like steals as a stat. I know Greg's not a huge fan. What did you make of Durham in their first game out?
Yeah, it's tough for me to say. I've got a lot of time for Lee Davey. I'm good friends with him. We talk quite a lot, but their roster just isn't good enough the way it's currently constructed. They've just not got enough that it's going to allow them to be competitive for the whole year. Caledonia have still got some strides to take, but this was comfortable. Again, I think Durham will get better. They need to get some games under their belt, but it's not a roster when you look at it that jumps up and goes, they can beat that many teams on paper. That I think they'd need to play great. They're going to rely heavily on Elderkin and Paxton to do a lot of damage. Combined, they played 79.5 minutes. I think Cara got 30 seconds of rest, and that was it. And they both inside players. Claire's started to expand again where she can shoot the three, but we kind of saw it with GB today. When you're so reliant on really the post scoring, it becomes a little bit easier to guard. I don't know much about the Europeans, I've got to say, so we'll see how they progress and grow. I would imagine the Spanish guard, Bobito, probably. Indication is if she's shooting 9 threes a game, she's probably not the type of guard that's going to go 1 of 9 too often.
Yeah, I would.
But again, it's what Lee can get, and I don't know if he's looking to add players. I wouldn't be surprised to make their move, but really I'm pleased for Caledonia. They're a young team, heavily reliant on Scottish players. They've not got an American in this year, as we said in the previous show, and for them to get a win early is going to give them a bunch of confidence. So yeah, and they've got a tough run coming up. They're at Leicester on Sunday.
Is that still that's a scheduled one? That's the only game we've got.
Yeah, that got arranged this week, which I want to get onto in a bit, because that's an interesting game to be arranged. But there were some big performances. Polly looks like she's come out playing really well. She obviously played well against Leicester the first time they played, and I'll see them next week. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the young group's developing and the emergence of some of the British players. So it's always a good thing. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to Leicester Oaklands. Leicester 71, Oaklands 48. Leicester unbeaten in all competitions so far. So they've definitely got the momentum going into next week's cup final, which will be a week tomorrow. That's right, the 12th against Sevenoaks. So we had Holly Winterburn with 15 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists and 3 steals. Kate Oliver, 10 points, 3 rebounds and 4 assists for Leicester. And then for Oaklands, we had Louise Rowe, 10 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. And Greta Upras with 11 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist and 1 steal. Tough game for Oaklands, this, wasn't it? Leicester are looking so good and so together.
Yeah, but this scoreline flattered Leicester.
Yeah.
This was by no means a 20-point game. This was a 7-point game with 5.5 minutes to go. This was remarkably close, and this was the Leicester offense.
It was what?
It was a 7-point game with 5.5 minutes to go.
That. Okay, I missed that.
So yeah, this was by no means easy for Leicester, and this is where their lack of offense is a concern, because it's difficult to blow teams out if you're only scoring 60-65 points. And it allows a team that Oakland's only had 46 on the board with 6 minutes to go. But promise, Leicester only had 53. And that just suddenly you're if you go cold and another team makes a couple of tough shots, which teams in this league can do. Especially even on that Oakland's roster, with the experience from Carter, the likes of Lizzie Harris and Beth Sarson, if they're all capable of suddenly just making 2 highly contested threes, and now it's a tied game or a 1-point game with 5 minutes to go, and it's not simple. So yeah, I kind of alluded to it. I wonder, and I've not spoken to anyone from Leicester, but I wonder if they're not happy with how they're playing, and they've gone, we need another game before the cup final. And okay, Hannah Robb's probably flying back home tomorrow, but Sarah Hickenstora's still with Iceland. She has a game Saturday, so she will not play on Sunday.
Well, she will be back for the cup final, though.
She'll be back for the cup final, but she will not play Sunday. So Leicester have deliberately scheduled a game without a starter. And you don't do that unless you think you need another game to get ready for the cup final. So I wonder if there's a little bit of concern in Leicester's ranks that they're not firing where they think they need to win the cup, and this is why they've been bold and arranged a game to get more minutes under people's legs.
That's very interesting, yeah, because it was, as you say, scheduled this week. Was it? It just dropped in
on, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday.
And is that in Leicester or is that Caledonia?
It's at Leicester, Sunday 4:00, I think, off memory.
Okay. So do you think Caledonia could have a bit of an upset there? Or do you think?
I don't think. I mean, if you look at the game from the first time, it was fairly comfortable. Caledonia don't really have a solution for the likes of. I mean, they've got Polly's playing well, but you just struggle to. Leicester's have got some depth in scoring at times. Obviously, Holly, Kate, Ella Clark, who's back. Leicester have kind of got that depth. I imagine we'll see KJ get a bit more burn in a game like this. KJ started up in the north when they played, so I see Leicester winning. But yeah, I just find it bizarre that you would choose to play without one of your best players. It's not something many coaches would do. So there's got to be something underlying to it. It's nice to see Christine Gaskin back on court. Because from what I think it was her blog, as she said, that it sounded like a potential more serious set of tests she was getting, and I was kind of thinking she might be done for the season. But to see her back on court was great.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's a positive for Leicester. So yeah, I mean, obviously we'll talk about the cup final next week more. But yeah, it's. I mean, it's advantage Leicester. There's no two ways about it if we kind of go full circle, because Leicester now will have played 3 or 4 games building up to this since Christmas, because they had, this will be their 4th game since the Christmas break. So Leicester will have that stride. Seven Oaks obviously don't play till the cup final. And I'll be honest, Janice didn't look in great shape today. Obviously, we couldn't tell much. She's only on court for 9 minutes, but she didn't look like she was in tip-top condition. And to really, in a final, you need to be that. So it is advantage Leicester, but we'll see, and we'll see how this week progresses. Because if the offense continues to struggle, that's going to be a concern heading into the final for them.
Yeah, definitely. And then we have another game on Wednesday, Oaklands and London. At 5 p.m.
Yes, so that's is that true? No, it's not trophy because it's Cardiff, Oakland's and trophy. So that's a league game. It's
just listed as championship.
So that's the league game. So yeah, obviously Barking look like they're on form.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see how Oakland's obviously did well against Leicester. It's another tough test for them. So yeah, you'd expect Barking to win that. But we'll see, because you never know how teams come off the international break. A couple of weeks prep. Obviously, both teams are missing players out in bubbles. So obviously, Chantel Charles, Paige Robinson are both gone out to Riga, so they'll be back at the weekend. Uprus is out with Estonia, I believe. Are they in Russia? Is that bubble? I don't even know where that bubble is. I should know.
I think was it moved. There was one that was moved.
But yeah, she's out, and I think she played today actually. So that's another. So we've seen a couple of WBBL players that play. Let me just pull up that box score. Did she get on court? Yes, she did. She played 8 minutes.
Okay.
Against Russia. That was in Russia. So that's a lot of travelling for an international break. Depending on whereabouts in Russia it is. Hopefully it's somewhere out on the. It's on the Kazakhstan border. So
closer than it could be. Closer than.
Yeah, but it's still a long way east. But she'll get back probably on Sunday or probably even Monday. And then she'll have to play for a Wednesday game. So it's a short turnaround. But again, it's probably not a game that Oakland's turn around and go, we need to win. So just another game under the legs. And then obviously next week we'll be back with hopefully all teams.
Fingers crossed.
I haven't heard anything about Mystics yet. But Seven Oaks obviously put out the statement to say they are playing in the cup final. So they are back, which is a good thing.
Yeah. So I haven't heard anything from the Mystics either, but we'll see if that's the plan. Hopefully something will come out soon. Okay, is that everything for WBBL? Have you got anything else?
The trophy. So the other trophy games, obviously, it started about 3 weeks ago. The other trophy first round games have been scheduled. So it's Cardiff, Oaklands, and Manchester. Talking of the Mystics, get a lovely midweek trip to Caledonia.
Ooh.
So that'll be a fun one. A 6:30 tip in Scotland on a Wednesday night is.
Oh, that's rough. What date's that?
The 17th, so
the 17th.
Week and a half, okay. 2 weeks time really. But yeah, there's a lot of rough tip times coming up in the league. I will say that. I believe currently both Cardiff and Caledonia are scheduled for 5:30 Sunday tips. Cardiff in Newcastle and Caledonia in Nottingham.
Oof.
So they're 2 a.m. arrivals back. So yeah, but again, in a COVID sort of season, you kind of get it. But 5:30 Sunday tips, I'll tell you from a coaching point of view, my players, they're not your favourites.
No one's jumping at those tip-off times.
No.
Okay. So Chester, thank you for your questions and your comments. This is a time for ambitious young British players to put up their hands. Yeah. See who wants to join, see who wants to get into the team. Hopefully there's someone out there. So we had one WNBL game last weekend. Loughborough and London. Loughborough winning 77-62. Leah Edwards, 21 points, 10 rebounds for London. And McCanna Stone, as always, for Loughborough, 18 points, 15 rebounds, who's just having a fantastic season, isn't she, McCanna Stone? Every game. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, it's almost a surprise you didn't put up a bigger stat line. But no, I'm glad I've kind of forgotten that game happened. It feels like so long ago. But yeah, we need to give a shout out to Layla Edwards, because I believe that was her NBL Division 1 debut.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I believe so. She may have played at the back end of last year a few minutes, but really this is her first big one. And I don't remember seeing her on box scores earlier, so I wonder if she's injured. I saw her this time last year playing in the under-16 National Cup final for Newham Youngbloods. You might remember she was the one that pulled down the ridiculous amount of rebounds. It was like 25 rebounds. I'll need to find that stat line. But she pulled down a ridiculous because I was sat in the game, and I remember everyone was talking about it. She got MVP as well, I believe.
Yeah. Good.
No surprise. No surprise on that one. 17 and 27 she had in the final.
27. Do you have the offensive defensive split?
11-16.
Okay, that's impressive.
By the way, that was off the bench. just saying.
Just come off the bench, pull down 27 rebounds.
Yeah. And she was terrific. So that's a big step for her. And it's obviously with things changing in terms of leagues, WNBL not being played. It'll be interesting to see how some of these rosters merge together and how minutes are distributed for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and also in WNBL, we've had the news that ARU are withdrawing from competition for the season just from general COVID concerns and not being able to play is it 7 games in by the end of March that they need to with the new
it would have been 7. Yeah.
So 7 games in 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, the ARU press release was bland. There wasn't really a reason given saying they can't play the games. I've heard through the grapevine, obviously, because I've got connections. And again, this is not official. It was literally down to a venue, so they don't have anywhere to train. So therefore, Therefore, they can't host games. Therefore, they can't really play games without training. So it doesn't surprise me because the 2 venues that we typically had access to, one public leisure centre, which is shut. The other was a school, and I'm imagining because they've not been able to train recently that the school have said with their own COVID protocols that they can't have external bookings in, even though there's a partnership between the school and the university, which would make sense. Therefore, realistically, can't get on court till the lockdown ends. Therefore, you're not looking at any time soon. You're not looking till March. Can't get the games in. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I will say on a personal note, I know a couple of the girls are due to graduate ARU this year. A couple of my former players, Jasmine July, Isabel Halage, I believe are both done. So it's a tough way for their time at the uni to end because unless they both come back and do masters, but I don't think. I know Yaz could, but I think she wants to go on to bigger and better things. Having had some discussions with her.
Is something like Europe an option for them?
Yeah, I mean, I won't. I've had some conversation with Yaz this week, in fact, about some things. So it'll be interesting to see where she goes. But yeah, it's a tough way for your university time to end. Yaz has been there for 3 and a bit years, won a lot, not just with the union team awards, but individual stuff. And I know they had high hopes coming into the year of having a good final year, and to not be able to play Bucks, suddenly lose your National League season like that is tough. So I feel for them. I feel for the Americans that have come over as well, Autumn, Callis.
Yeah.
Like you come over, I think, master's degree, and obviously they knew it was going to be a tough year, but you expect you can play 20-30 games and your season's done after 3. And obviously it's not just ARU that own this predicament. I've heard that there's a possibility there may be more WNBL teams pulling out
because of similar issues.
I'd imagine so. So if that happens, from what I've heard, we'll do a little Focus Hoops exclusive here, that the plan is to go back to everyone playing each other twice.
Because there's less teams. Okay.
So this is why on Saturday we now have Solent Loughborough.
Right.
Because when I saw this game get arranged, I was like, what's going on? So I shot a message to a friend in the league and went, what's going on? Because Solent Loughborough played each other in November. And I'm like, huh? And it sounds like that's the move that BE are going to go back towards everyone playing each other twice. So however many teams it ends up with. So I know some teams only had 1 or 2 games left to play. I think Loughborough were a team that only have one. Something that wasn't arranged. They've only got 1 game left to play between now and the end of March, and they're already back playing. So it makes some sense. It might mean some teams have a tough schedule, but it looks like we will get more WNBL basketball, which is good because look, I think the girls that want to play and are able to play, want to, and some of the junior talent that we've got in WNBL need the minutes heading into college, into Europeans in the summer, stuff like that. So they're the ones that if you NBL season would be more effective, especially the junior national teams programs, because you see a lot of the under 18s play WNBL, so they need minutes, and obviously some have lost out, like of Natalie Charity at Bristol, who now won't get on court till the summer again. But yeah, if we get more WNBL, it's never a bad thing.
No, definitely not. The more, the better. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. That'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season looks. So, as you said, just the one game this weekend for Solent and Loughborough.
That's a good game, by the way, too. The way Loughborough are playing, obviously weren't convinced against Barking, but they knocked off Ipswich just before Christmas. Solent had the 2 narrow losses at ARU and Ipswich. And I think it was only about an 8-point game in Loughborough early on, and that was really early on in the season. So that's going to be a big game, and you can't. I think Ipswich. You can't. I mean, you can't rule it out. You can't rule out either of those teams winning the league. If you think about it, they've only both got. I think Loughborough have only got the 1 loss and Solent the 2.
Because obviously I don't think the standings. Let me see.
Because obviously Solent.
Ipswich have lost 1 and Solent have lost 3.
3. Yeah. Solent were on 4, but now they've got the ARU loss back. So yeah, they've got 3. They've lost to Ipswich twice. That makes sense. So yeah, Loughborough on 2. So you can't rule out Loughborough as title contenders. So if Loughborough go on the road to Solent and win, suddenly they're right in the race. So there you go, big game.
Yeah,
what we like.
Yeah, big game to watch. Okay, so I think is that it for WNBL, and we'll do a little bit of WNBA free agency before we wrap things up.
A little bit. I've lost track of what's going on. There's a lot.
There is a lot. There is a lot. So free agency, we had loads of rumours, loads of unofficial reports last week. It officially kicked off on the 1st of February when players could sign contracts, make some moves. Obviously, the biggest move of the off-season. Yep.
Can we flip roles for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Caz, no Candice Parker. Explain your feelings for Derek Fisher.
We had a bit of a deep dive into this last week. It was rough. It was rough. I mentioned to Darren a few weeks ago, I find it odd that essentially the franchise almost looks like it's chosen the coach over a franchise player, which you don't ever see, that I can ever recall seeing. And I think there's going to be a lot of Sparks fans that are going to be quite unhappy with this, with this being Fisher's kind of first move as general manager. Not only as they lost Candice Parker, they've lost Chelsea Gray as well. But listening to Candice Parker's press conference, talking about why she chose to go to Chicago, it kind of didn't sound like whatever LA would have offered her wouldn't have been enough. She wanted to go home and she wants to win. And obviously she thinks Chicago have the better team built to win and to win now than LA does. It's obviously, I think I've seen things, people are saying it's the biggest free agency signing a Chicago sports team have had in a very long time, because the amount of publicity it's had around it is great. It's great for the WNBA. It's great for the Chicago Sky. And I do think it's a great fit. And I actually went back and watched mine and some of our wild predictions after the season finished last year. And I did, for some reason, I said, yeah, Candice Parker would be an amazing fit on Chicago. Like, basketball wise, it's a perfect place. I don't know what I was thinking as a Sparks fan. But basketball wise, I think it's fantastic. And I think it puts Chicago right up there with in contention for a title. But it is, I think it's probably going to be a bit of a sore point for a lot of Sparks fans for a long time, losing 2 of your big 3. But there's a great documentary as well that the Uninterrupted have done on Chelsea Gray's free agency. They were following her in free agency last season when she had a meeting with the Las Vegas Aces. She obviously didn't sign with them then, but she's signed with them now. And she talks about in that documentary how something Bill Laimbeer flew her out first class to Las Vegas, showed her how the team worked, all the training facilities. And Bill Laimbeer is essentially saying, I want the players to be treated like the male players in the NBA were treated, in free agency. They want to be wooed. They want to see what it's like. And he was trying to do that for Chelsea Gray, and it obviously made an impression. So she signed a contract with them this season.
Yeah, I mean, that was another big move, and there's been some that have stayed, some that have gone, and it's been a really nice balance to free agency as a whole. I think the thing with Parker is that I understand why teams do it to some degree, and they make all this stuff the contract obviously they keep closed, but obviously there's some bits that remain closed, but quite a lot of it becomes public because the salary cap has to be known and stuff. So the interesting thing that I think people need to know is Candace Parker, okay, a big part of what you said is she wanted to go home. She did not take a max salary to go home. Now, she's still very close to max. Sounds like it's a 2-year, $385,000 contract. First year being $190,000, second year therefore make that $195,000, I believe. But she did take a little bit of a pay cut to help build the rest of that roster out for the Sky. It doesn't leave them with a lot of salary cap left. So I wonder if there's a move coming. I wonder if you could see a Khalil Cooper, a Stephanie Dolson, who have got big cap hits, really, being moved to allow their depth, because obviously these things aren't official, but I know we both look at the Sport Track website to look at salary cap. It says the Sky have got $68,000 left, and they've only got 10 players under contract.
And that's not going to get you.
That's going to get you a first round draft pick, and that's about it.
And and Cheyenne Parker as well has signed with Atlanta, so that's they've lost her. Yep. And obviously the roster replacement slot is Candace Parker, but like you say, 10 players under contract at the moment. A couple of injuries, it then becomes a problem when you've got a shorter roster like that. So it'd be interesting to see what I think, like you say, there's probably something else in the works there. There's probably something else ready to go or that they're working on. And James Wade spoke about that. He's been building something. He said, they've been good but not great. And he wants to build a great team. And I'm sure he's got his eye on someone.
Yeah. And if we I know you want to kind of flick around the league a little bit. So obviously you just mentioned Parker to Atlanta. They've just announced a thing of another big as well. I can't remember who. It popped up on the WNBA timeline about just as we were starting the show.
Tiana Hawkins.
So
from Washington.
So Atlanta, another team that you look at right now and go, their roster is a little bit imbalanced.
Yeah.
They seem very big heavy at the moment on paper. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Because if you really look at it, Parker, Strickland, Williams, Billings, you've a very front court heavy. They've not got a lot in the back court. Really, you've got obviously your favourite, Kennedy Carter, Tiffany Hayes, and Courtney Williams. Courtney Williams is still on the contract, right?
Yeah.
But after that, you've really got nothing on the roster. So Atlanta, one of those teams that I'd expect will pick up that sort of mid-tier free agent. But losing Laney for me is a big blow.
Absolutely. And when Laney won her Most Improved Player award at the end of the season, and speaking to Nikki Collin, they were sort of saying, we want to resign, but Laney's gone to the New York Liberty. And she again spoke in her press conference to introduce her to the media and the team. It's closer to home for her. She's got friends and family in Brooklyn, and she was happy to go home. I think she signed a max as well, which is very well deserved after this coming up to this time last year, being cut by Indiana, having the season of her life for Atlanta, and winning the Most Improved Player award. So it's a great opportunity for her, but it's a massive blow for Atlanta, and I think that could be to replace everything she did is going to be quite a struggle for them. I think to find one player that will do everything that she did.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the thing. And New York, another interesting one. I still think they're probably a year away. Their front court is probably where they're lacking on the whole. That's a big move for a team that had cap room, had room for a big free agent, and the fact that Lainey had such a good year. It's nice to see her be rewarded for that with a max, or at least a very close to max contract. I believe it was 3 years, $590,000. So it's as close as you can get to a max if it's not a max. So
yeah, and that's what you want to see after someone having a breakout season like that. She's worked for it. She should be given it.
Yeah.
She also mentioned how she'd actually spoken with Sabrina, and she was really excited to not only impart her basketball knowledge onto Sabrina, but also to learn from Sabrina herself, and the pick and roll that they're going to have there is going to be pretty exciting. Another move that we had, so probably not a massive shock to anyone, Diana Taurasi has re-signed with Phoenix. I think that's a 2-year contract.
Yes.
And she spoke about how the way she played in the bubble last season, she wanted to keep playing. She's got no plans to retire. Yeah,
Taurasi was a 2-year, which is maybe the most interesting part of it. The fact that she's not going to take it year by year, which is probably someone with where she's at in her career you'd expect maybe to do. So to go straight for a 2-year for the league is a great thing. She was one that you never really expected to move. Would have been fun if she'd moved.
Yes.
But she is someone that is really settled. But Phoenix have been one of the quieter teams of the window, which
I keep seeing and I keep hearing these little rumors about trades for Brittany Griner. Do you think can you see Griner playing anywhere other than Phoenix?
Yes. Believe it or not, she wasn't great last year. She's on a big contract. We talked going into the season, she was talking about MVP, and she was okay. She left the bubble, but she was nowhere near that this year. If we're being honest, she wasn't a top 10. She wasn't even really a top 20 player in the bubble on the whole. She had the odd game, and we know she's dynamic, but it's a big contract. Phoenix aren't in a great cap spot. You've got Skylar, Diggins-Smith, Griner, and Taurasi all on maxes. So that's 3 players that are attributing to 60% of your cap. Bria Hartley's due to be back, and she's on a max or near max at 190. So when 4 players contribute 80% of your cap, you expect changes somewhere because it's not sustainable. And Phoenix, if they want to, Phoenix need to get better. I think they know that. I think the wobble showed that they're a top 5, top 6 team, but that's all they are. They're not really a top 4 roster, and they're not really, as of now, they're not making any moves to impact that, and they've not got a ton of cap room to do it. And I don't think they have a first-round draft pick either, do they? I think that's the one that was traded.
Yeah, I don't think they don't have a first round. They've got a second round, though. But
so now you're talking about not adding a great rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Because generally only the first rounders are the only ones that really play in the first year. That Phoenix have some work to do. And they're maybe, they've got Taurasi back, but as of this second, they're probably one of the biggest losers of free agency as it is, because they've not made a move.
Yeah. I would be very interested to see what they do. A couple of other moves. So we've had Chelsea Gray to Vegas, and I think that's fantastic for Vegas. I think Chelsea Gray, Asia Wilson, Angel McCoughtry, Liz Cambage, if she's playing for Vegas, we know they've caught her. That's a problematic team to come up against, especially with now having some finals experience. Adding Chelsea Gray into that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately they've got rid of Caleb McBride and signed Chelsea Gray. That's effectively, in contract terms, is what they've done, and that's an upgrade. McBride's a good player. Obviously, he's done a huge thing to Vegas in the last couple of years, coming off the bench day in, day out, and playing really well in that role. But yeah, you'd have to say Chelsea Gray is an upgrade, and suddenly Seattle were definitely looking over their shoulders.
Oh, and probably a move that we didn't mention earlier, Alicia Clark from Seattle has gone to Washington, which I think was quite a surprise for Seattle fans. I kind of would have expected her to stick around with Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, again, she was someone that was great this year, and maybe she feels like a move will allow her to be the best or the second best player on the team, and that's a role she never really had at Seattle.
Yeah, definitely.
And I wonder if she feels like she can take that step. The Mystics definitely needed help in the backcourt. Sort of more of a wing spot, but Emma Meeseman, obviously the news coming that she will not join the team till after the Olympics. She's the first one to announce it, and I guarantee she won't be the last. So Washington are already going around that. And was it Clark that, I can't remember, who sent a free agency package out to Turkey for a player? Was it Clark?
It was someone from Minnesota. It was Cheryl Reeves sending it for someone. I think was that to McBride?
Or maybe McBride, but yeah, we've had little stories like that, which is nice. And one that has come through in the last couple of hours, Alyssa Thomas, not really a big shock, but it's back at Connecticut, but it's a huge deal. Mm-hmm. 4 years, 836,000. So I believe that will be a max.
4 years, okay. Yeah, that's a big signing for Connecticut. Obviously, it throws their plan. Her injury, or Achilles injury, throws probably their plans for this season out a little bit. Kurt Miller actually spoke the other day, saying the day that he made his contract extension official as general manager, he's sitting there thinking, today's a great day, nothing's going to go wrong today. Then he gets the phone call to say Alyssa Thomas has torn her Achilles and he's going to be out for the season. So he's spoken a little bit about having to pivot the approach for the team, who's going to get that opportunity, when they're able to put someone in that wouldn't normally get the time, because as he said before, taking Alyssa Thomas off court, you just can't. She doesn't want to come off and you don't want to take her off. So it maybe opens up an opportunity for someone. She isn't getting her shoulders fixed at the same time as the surgery, and it didn't sound like she had any interest in doing so. She said, she plays how she plays. Jasmine Thomas has also re-signed with the Sun today. I'm not sure of the contract details on that one, but that's, Connecticut keeping that core together is what they need. We also had Danielle Robinson from Vegas who is signed with Indiana. So Indiana haven't really made too many moves. They've lost quite a few players, and Danielle Robinson was a big sign in there.
Yeah,
do you like that one?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's Indiana's that team looking for a splash is the wrong word, but they're looking for that player that can get them from being a fringe playoff team to a solid playoff team. And she's steady enough that she's a solid player, but she's not spectacular. So I wonder if there's more to come from the Indiana side, because again, they are a team that have been relatively quiet. They don't really have a max type player.
And Candice Dupree, it's been reported that she won't be re-signing back with Indiana. So I guess she was.
And she's one of the big, really, free agents left on the board. If you kind of look at it from that way, now Jasmine Thomas is off the board. Sue Bird is technically still on the board, but that's kind of public that she's going back to Seattle. She's just waiting for the salary cap so Seattle can move it around how they need to. So really, it's like the likes of Dupree, Natasha Howard, I believe, is still a free agent.
Yeah, because was she on the suspended contract last season with opting out? I would imagine she re-signs with Washington.
Someone like Amanda Zawi B.
See, that's the big one I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for Amanda Zawi because I don't think she's going to be back in New York.
We'll see. Yeah, it'll be interesting. But I mean, she's the type of player you wonder if ends up going to LA to replace Parker.
Yeah,
because
I think she like a contender will want her. Not that I'm not convinced LA are a contender, but I think there's going to be a team that are a high playoff team that's going to want her.
Yeah, and obviously all the contracts haven't quite gone through the system yet. Not everyone's signed, but right now the Sparks have barely used over half their salary. Now, obviously, we know there's probably a couple of deals in the works, but in terms of cap space remaining, the Sparks have the most in the whole league. So you feel like they can splash it if they need to. And it'll be interesting to see what direction they go because they have taken a hit. Yeah,
they did sign Erica Wheeler this week, which I'm a fan of Erica Wheeler. I like watching her play, and I think that's a good signing. You know, she's a really high energy player. She can score. She talked in her Players Tribune essay about making an unstoppable pick and roll with Necker. So that's going to be good. I just worry about the her and Tolliver maybe on the defensive end, just with the height that they bring. It's going to be a little bit rough maybe, but like you say, lots of cap space, so hopefully something else in the works. Obviously re-signing Brittany Sykes as well, so that's good. That's a huge contribution to their defense. And then we had Natalie Achonwa leaving Indiana for Minnesota, a player that Cheryl Reeve was saying that they'd been wanting to have for a while. Cheryl Reeve thinks really highly of Natalie Achonwa, and we saw her just playing in EuroLeague as well, playing for I've forgotten.
So have I.
They were playing against Girona. They were playing against Girona. In that.
Kursk? No, it's the other group. It'll come to us when we've wrapped up the show.
Yeah, but she's been playing great overseas, and she's a nice pickup there for Minnesota. I think Minnesota have quietly had, well, not quietly, they've been very loud about it. They've had a really strong free agency so far.
Let's see if I can find where Natalie's playing. It's always in the last place you look as well, isn't it? When you're trying to find something in a rush.
It was that game against Girona, wasn't it? It was
yeah.
Schio. She plays for Schio.
Schio, yeah. Yeah, Schio in Italy, that's the one, of course. And actually a bit of Spanish news, just bringing WNBA back to Europe. Literally as we were going on air, Bella Alarie of the Dallas Wings has signed with CB Avienda, which of course is, to bring it really full circle, where Carly Samuelson and of course her Dallas Wings teammate Katie Samuelson play. So it seems, I love
that signing.
Yeah, and from what I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but certainly on all the Dallas media stuff building up to the start of the season and in training camp, it seemed like Katie and Bella were getting on really well.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that.
A lot of the Instagram stuff and things like that, and a lot of the media stuff, it was those two together.
Yeah.
So she should be a plug and play straight in. She's obviously got a connection with Katie already. And yeah, that'll certainly help them as they push for EuroLeague when it gets back underway in the middle of March.
Yeah, that'll be really good. And I've been a huge fan of watching Avenida play because Katie Lou Samuelson, I think maybe someone that went under the radar a little bit for me in Dallas. I maybe didn't watch as many of the Dallas Wings games, but she's phenomenal. She's by far one of my favorite players I've watched in the EuroLeague.
Yeah, I mean she's got a chance of EuroLeague MVP the way she's playing this year. She's really stepped up. But yeah, the whole thing we haven't really touched upon at any point, and it's our fault, is obviously I brought it with me some, is how the Olympics affects the WNBA this year.
Yeah.
Because
so, middle of season, isn't it?
Yeah, middle of season. Obviously there'll be a longer break, but it's what players, especially the non-Americans, how long they have in camp, what and how that affects rosters, and that's something that has gone under the radar of who's going to be available. Is it worth a team picking up an Amanda Zawi B or is she just going to effectively hold out till after the Olympics and just focus on getting back from injury? And actually, did Sweden make it? No, Sweden didn't make it. They just missed out, so that's my fault. But Julia Lamond, obviously some of the Marie Johannes, I assume, is going to be back in the league this year. I can't remember where she signed.
I want to say New York.
Could well be.
I feel like it's New York.
But yeah, you've got players like that. Obviously, Liz Cambage even.
Yeah.
What does
we've
she
not heard
do?
anything. Not heard anything yet.
No, and I think those things, maybe because the Olympics are still up in the air, a little bit, we'll see. But they're things that are going to impact, as they do every fourth year with the WNBA, of how the season goes, players' availability and things. And I wonder if that's going to hold up free agency a little bit.
I think it
now
could
we've
do.
got the initial rush.
Yeah, I think we're maybe going to have a little bit of a quieter period before everything starts going a bit wild again. We have got
draft as well. And the draft, which is still months away, believe it or not.
Yeah, and we have got the Team USA training camp at the moment. That's today until the 6th. So there's some huge names on the camp list there.
Yeah, and look, the US have pretty much got anyone they want back from Europe. Everyone's, because their clubs aren't playing, and obviously their teammates have gone. That they've gone back to the States, which we don't see often. To be fair, we don't see the likes of the top Europeans generally travelling back mid-year. So the fact that they've gone over for 3-4 day camp, I've not heard a lot about camp. I've not seen a lot. I imagine they probably would have started today or yesterday.
Yeah, today. There was a cool little video of Nneka and Chene greeting each other.
Yeah, so
sorry, Nneka and Chelsea Gray.
As you say, that WNBA have just retweeted pictures from what looks like training camp. So there you go. That answers that question. So it'll be interesting to see how that process takes shape. And obviously that's a big step for trying to pick 12 players for the USA roster. Good luck with that one.
That's I wouldn't want to be the person picking that. But you basically got a super team, haven't you?
Yeah.
So just to ask a question for both of you, which team will you be supporting in the Olympics? If we're talking basketball-wise, I'll be supporting the USA. So I can watch WNBA players.
That's just boring.
But it's just amazing to watch like everyone all at once. It's like watching a Ekaterinburg.
What about
watching WNBA every week? What about
supporting the Olympics? Supporting all the teams. Supporting good basketball.
Yeah, no, I do. I like that. I mean, I'll watch every single game there is.
Yeah.
But like a Spain, Australia actually, I'd really excited to see. Especially I was watching a lot of the WNBL Australian League this year. So you got Liz Cambage, Lani Mitchell, Shyla Heal, maybe also a potential draft pick this year. I think she'll probably be entering the WNBA draft. Australia have got a lot of young talent. And
I can't believe I forgot about it, but of course it only happened yesterday. The Olympic draw was made.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Was that only yesterday?
Yeah. So Group A, Korea, Serbia, Canada, and Spain. Group B, Nigeria, Japan, France, and the US. And then Group C, Australia, Puerto Rico, China, and Belgium. The big news that I'd missed building up to this was they changed the format of the Olympics. So obviously they used to do 2 groups of 6.
Yeah.
And now they've gone to 3 groups of 4. So less games. So I believe that is 6 games all the way through, whereas before it used to be 8 or 9. So really you've halved the group play. So format is top 2 from each group plus 2 of the best third place sides. So you're still only knocking out 4 teams. So it obviously on paper I think the initial reaction was the Canada, Spain, Serbia group. Everyone was like, "Oh, that's perhaps the first one that really jumped out at you as a potential group of death." But there is a good chance that all 3 teams, in theory, could qualify. So it's not like it's a do or die game necessarily. Because suddenly, if you had a Canada-Serbia type game which are, if you go on the seedings, is what it would be as a de facto quarterfinal on the first day of the Olympics. Potentially, it would change things a little bit. So there is a little bit of leeway to say that. And of course, there's 12 good teams there, but I would imagine on paper, Group B with France and the US in it is probably the one that you feel tough if you're Japan or Nigeria to be drawn into.
Yeah, I would think so.
But again, there's some really tasty games like Belgium, China, Australia mini series should be great. Because there's not a real standout team in that group. Perhaps Australia would perhaps be favourites, but Belgium obviously look good and is probably the best generation Belgium have ever had. And you never know what you can get from China, because look, they look pretty good in the qualifying group with GB. They've got some unique height, which will cause some challenges. It's not often Liz Cambage isn't the biggest player on the court.
Yeah, Hanzu.
It's a really good draw, and it kind of whets their appetite for late July, early August. Yeah,
definitely. Let's hope they can get everything ready so they can go ahead. Hope we're in a good position. Okay, so anything else, Mikey? Anything? Any more news?
Don't think so.
Okay. Nothing's dropped while we've been on.
Not that I can see. Not basketball news. There's a couple of other sports, or women's basketball news. A couple of other sports have dropped some news, but it doesn't look like there's any more breaking news. No, Valencia just tweeted about men's EuroLeague, of course, because the women are in the bubble, of course.
Yes. Okay. Well, we will leave it there for today. Thank you very much, Mikey, for joining us on the Caz and Daz Show without Daz.
And I think it's skiving next week as well, the part-timer. Next week's a better excuse because Lions have got a home game Thursday night. So,
I mean, he could probably commentate, with one and then join us here for another.
I mean, I'd expect that, but it'll be tough because I think Lions is at 6. They'll be on the road back, and the one thing we do know is you definitely don't get good internet signal on the tube.
Hey, your roving reporting last week, it worked pretty well.
True.
So thank you very much for joining us, Mikey. And thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us. We're going to have loads of quick videos, just stuff out about everything that's going on. Lots of WNBA free agency talk. Mikey and Ish did a video earlier, post-game roundup of the GB Belarus game. So check that out. The Hanson Morris report on the Focus Hoops YouTube channel. Great little insight there. I enjoyed watching it. And we will see you next week on the Caz and Daz Show. Maybe Dazless, maybe not. Who knows? Thank you.